there's one thing that you need to know how to make on the Weber Kettle, it's chicken thighs. They're cheap, they're simple, they're fast, and they make for a perfect weeknight cook session on the grill. By the end of this video, you're gonna know how to make juicy, flavorful chicken thighs every single time on the Weber Kettle without fail. Let's go. I'm Joe, and this is Fork and Timbers. I provide real-world barbecue techniques that's gonna have you smoking and grilling faster than a chicken can peck twice. So do yourself a favor, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss anything barbecuing or grilling. Today I'm gonna be showing you my technique for grilling chicken thighs on a Weber Kettle, and they're gonna be obviously juicy, flavorful, but they're gonna be crispy and caramelized as well. And I would bet dollars to donuts, they're better than pretty much any other chicken thigh you've had. This technique in general is really something that you need to have in your back pocket if you own a Weber Kettle, and your family's gonna be asking for chicken thighs pretty much every night of the week, which is perfectly fine because chicken thighs are cheap and you have to be an idiot to fuck them up. So with that said, let's grill something. First thing you're gonna need is some chicken thighs. I'm a big proponent and believer of using your butcher whenever you can to buy meat, which I tend to always do, but I bought some chicken thighs from the butcher, and when I tell you they were tiny, we're talking like scallops. They was tiny. So I said, fuck that, I can't do it.
Please, sir, I want some more.
They had an extra bone in it too. Like when they trim them in the hip, they leave like an extra bone. So you got that to eat around. It was so much more of a hassle to use the butcher for this. So I actually just went with some good steroided up chicken thighs. Do what you want to do for your family. These taste great. I like the smoke flavor that you can get on them because the smaller ones, they cook so fast, you can't really get a good flavor on them. So you do what you want to do. But this is what I got. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna trim them up. This isn't completely necessary, but I don't like for the skin to hang off of the chicken because they do burn up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take off any of this excess skin like that. You're just gonna trim it off, and then that'll let you get a lot better shape out of your chicken thigh as well. Come on down here and I'll show you. I like to toss it with the skin side down, and then I can see what pieces actually are gonna hang off. So I'll cut that off, cut off any extra little pieces like that. Now what you can do is if you roll it, you actually get a really pretty shape, right? So if you don't really give a damn about what it looks like, you know, don't even bother. But do not throw this away. You can cook this down in a skillet and you'll render out a lot of fat and you can cook with it. And these taste really good. They'll come out like little pieces of chicharrones. Now, if you ever watch any videos or participated in barbecue competitions, you'll know that this is a very big part of it, but they'll actually go a lot further, take the skin off and shave it down, all kinds of stuff. This is just a backyard barbecue cook, so we ain't really doing all that other stuff, but this here will be more than enough to come out with some really good looking chicken thighs. Set this to the side and do the rest of the chicken. So there you go, we have all of them cut down, and we're ready to move on to the next stage, which is marinating. So for the marinade, this is something that's not 100% necessary, but it is one surefire way to add a lot of flavor. It kind of protects the chicken from overcooking as well, and if you want to do this before work, you can. If you want to do it as soon as you get home from work, before you fire the grill up, you can do that as well. Go ahead and slice this lime up. We're gonna go ahead and squeeze the lime into here. We're just gonna mix everything into this bag. Don't need to make it more complicated. There's not gonna be really any sugar in this, so we don't need to heat it up. If you decide to put like honey or something like that into the marinade, you probably need to heat it up a little bit first, but we're not gonna be doing that today. Next, we're gonna go ahead and start with our oil. You can use any type of oil, but you can use vegetable oil, olive oil. We're using canola oil right now. Next, we're gonna do some salt. Let's go in with a full teaspoon of that. Don't need a lot of salt, but this should do the trick right here. So a teaspoon of that. Next, we're gonna go in with some black pepper, and we wanna do a teaspoon of that as well. And then we wanna do 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Then we got one more thing. Like I said, these marinades are simple. You don't need to do anything crazy, but this here is gonna allow it to be really juicy while we cook it. So if you do overcook it, actually, the marinade helps protect it a little bit. What we're doing next is you need to get a can of Chipotle sauce. You can buy these at Kroger, Walmart, whatever. Pour about a half of the can in. We're gonna use the other half later, so what we're gonna do is mix it up. Simple, right? Then next, all we need to do is toss the chicken thighs in. What I like to do is squeeze all of the air out of it. It's gonna make it a lot easier to move the marinade around the chicken. Just don't squeeze the juice out of the top of the bag. All right, once you get that done, should be pretty easy to mix this up. Make sure the marinade's touching all of the chicken. Don't let it kind of pocket like that. You want it to go all the way around. What you can also do is lay all of your chicken thighs in the bag facing down. And when you marinate it, just lay it like that so that all of the skin sides down and all the meat sides down. Marinade obviously will move with gravity. But throw this in the refrigerator, and I'm gonna show you how to make the seasoning that we're gonna use. But this can sit in the refrigerator for 30 minutes to about 12 hours. Okay, next I'm gonna show you how to make this rub. Very simple, straightforward, not a ton of ingredients, which is always great when you can make it as simple as possible, right? We're gonna do 2 teaspoons of salt. 2 teaspoons of chili powder. I like to do heaping measurements on this because you can't really do too much chili powder. That probably came out to a tablespoon. Missing a seasoning. Next, what we want to do is we want to do about a teaspoon of cumin powder. And there we go. Next, to add a little bit of more smoky flavor, I like to use smoked paprika. We're going to do a teaspoon of that. Paprika also is a good way to add a beautiful color to pretty much any meat you're cooking. So, a little tip there for you. Next, we're going to do a teaspoon of black pepper. Then lastly, we're gonna do a teaspoon of garlic powder. I love these containers. You can get them on Amazon really cheap. I can leave a link in the description for you, or just go search food storage containers. But put it in there, shake it. When I season food, I like to use my hands because I can kind of have more control that way. And you should have something that looks like that. Let's see. Yeah, like that there. Shouldn't be too powdery or granulated. Perfectly fine, really. So we're gonna let that chicken marinate. I'll be back and we'll talk a little bit more about the Weber Kettle and stuff. So I'll see you then. Okay, so the chicken's been marinating for probably about 4 hours. We're gonna go ahead and remove it, and we're gonna pat it as dry as we can possibly get it because we want that skin to get really crispy. They don't have to be bone dry. That heat's gonna be pretty high. You're gonna get a pretty good Maillard reaction either way, especially with as much oil that's in this marinade. Having a little bit of wetness on there too is perfectly fine for seasoning because it's gonna let it stick to it quite a bit more than it would if it was completely dry. But now we're ready to season it. So you want to make sure that you get every little crevice with this chicken. You can even put it under the skin because you don't get any seasoning contact with the meat if you don't do that. If you want to add a little bit more flavor, you can do that. We'll go ahead and get the rest of these seasoned up, and then we will talk a little bit about the kettle and how we're going to use it. Let's talk about how we're going to use this Weber Kettle. This technique is super simple. You're not going to have any flare-ups. A lot of beginners have problems with flare-ups when cooking fatty meats like chicken thighs because they like to put the meat directly over the coal. Fat drips down and you get flare-ups. We're going to be using a technique called two-zone cooking. If you've done much grilling at all, you know what this technique is. You have a direct side and an indirect heat side. Well, our sweet spot is going to be this indirect heat side. We're never going to be putting the chicken over the direct heat side because the indirect heat side is going to be so hot, around 400 to 450, and that's going to be more than enough heat to render down that fat and to crisp up that skin on those chicken thighs. So what you need to do is take your chimney starter, fill it about halfway full of charcoal, and we're gonna put it into the kettle unlit. Now I have some charcoal that's left over from my last cook, so I'm gonna use that. Then you wanna take a chimney, fill it full of charcoal, and you wanna light it. Now we want this charcoal to become completely lit. We don't want any smoke coming from the charcoal when we put it on the kettle. Once all of the charcoal is completely lit in the chimney, we wanna toss it on that direct heat side with the unlit charcoal. Then what I like to do is take some cherry wood and some oak wood. I have a lot of this left over from cutting up logs from my offset smoker, and I'll use these on my Weber Smoky Mountain as well. I like to toss those on top of the charcoal, and that gives you a little extra bit of heat. And also that cherry gives a beautiful color to any piece of meat that you use with it, and gives you a little bit of a smoky flavor. Put that lid on the Weber kettle, check that temperature, should hit around 400 to 450. If it's even higher, it's fine. We're not cooking on the direct heat side, so it's not a big deal. But when the smoke has subsided and you don't see a lot of smoke coming from that kettle, we're ready to throw that chicken on. So after putting the chicken on the Weber kettle and you go to put that lid on, make sure you put the vent on the indirect heat side above the chicken. The reason we want to do that is because that heat from that direct side is going to come up and then it's going to go over top of the chicken and then out the vent, creating a really nice airflow. It's going to crisp up that skin really well. If you feel like the temperature is getting too hot and you're getting too much color in your chicken, what you can do is take that vent, put it over top of the coal, and that heat's going to come straight out that hood. And you'll notice that on the indirect heat side, that temperature drops considerably. So you can do a little bit of airflow control that way and temperature management. So you're gonna let them cook for about 20 minutes and you'll probably start to see some color develop on the skin. Then we're gonna take a spritzer full of oil. I bought a cheap one off Amazon. I'll leave you a link in the description. But get a spritzer that can handle oil going through the sprayer. And you pretty much spray the chicken thighs with it. And that temperature is gonna be so hot that it's gonna be like frying that chicken skin. You wanna do that every 10, 15 minutes maybe, depending on how big your chicken thighs are and how long the cook's gonna take. But if your kettle's not hot enough, putting oil on the skin isn't gonna help. So make sure that temperature is really high. You're gonna keep cooking your chicken thighs until they hit 175 degrees internal temperature. I do like to overcook my chicken thighs just a little bit. They have a lot of fat. They can handle a little bit more heat for a little bit longer. But when they reach 175, we're gonna hit them with a little glaze that has some honey, lime, chipotle sauce, and some cumin, and a little bit of salt. I'll leave the ingredients in the description for you, but I'll take those ingredients, put them in a pot, and I'll actually heat them up over the coals on the Weber kettle. Once I've mixed the ingredients well, I'll baste it onto the chicken thighs, and I'll only cook the chicken thighs for about 5 more minutes. Don't walk away at this point, because that heat in that Weber kettle, if it's at the temperature it should be, it will burn the shit out of your thighs, and you'll have some fucked up thighs. So make sure that you don't walk away from this. But after you've glazed them and they've cooked for about 5 to 10 minutes more, they're ready to come off, and they probably look pretty damn good at this point. Use a spin my night. I've drank too much bourbon. But if this isn't the best looking chicken that I've ever seen, my name's not Joe. And this isn't Buffalo Trace. Let me tell you, this right here is crazy. The caramelization, you're not gonna get that anywhere. That technique is phenomenal. You shouldn't have any problem cooking chicken thighs from this point going forward. You put that on that indirect heat side, get it to about 450. That skin's gonna crisp up. And then if you wanna glaze it, it's gonna get real tacky, and that skin's gonna be a real nice bite for it. But I think it's time that we give it a try. I'm gonna go for this real pretty one right here. Man, this is... That's hands down best chicken thighs I've ever had. Man, falls right off the bone. You know, you can overcook chicken thighs a little bit just because they got so much fat. Man, I'm in love with these right here. Wipe down a little bourbon. If you enjoyed this recipe and you're loving all the rest of my videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I work really hard on these videos and I try to bring the best of me in every video, bringing all the knowledge, all the different barbecue techniques that I know. I'm also learning a lot on the way, so any feedback you want to give me, I take the negative pretty well, I promise. Make these right here, comment below what you thought of them. I promise you, you're gonna love them.